This podcast contains discussions of violent and disturbing content that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is strongly advised. The views and opinions expressed are for informational and entertainment purposes only and do not necessarily reflect those of the podcast's creators, hosts, or affiliated parties. If you or someone you know is in need of support, please reach out to a qualified mental health professional. This episode is brought to you by listeners like you, the last spark of hope in a world running low on signal. You're the boost behind this mic in these static-filled times. Stay tuned and stay human. Greetings, fellow sci-fi and fantasy lovers. Welcome to Code Flix, where we explore the TV shows and movies that shape our imaginations. I'm Andre Bonner, and today's episode we'll be exploring angels, the apocalypse, and the battle for humanity in the movie Legion. Legion is one of those apocalyptic thrillers that crept upon me. The trailer alone, dark, ominous, and intense, had this eerie, almost disturbing energy that immediately pulled me in. I wasn't sure what I was getting into, but curiosity got the better of me. And honestly, I'm glad it did. Paul Bettany, who many know as Vision from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, takes on a completely different role here and nails it. I was already a fan of his work in Priest, but Legion cements his status as the stoic, soft-spoken badass who somehow makes divine warfare feel grounded. The setup? A remote desert diner becomes ground zero for biblical apocalypse. The world is on the brink of destruction, not from the fire and brimstone, but from angels obeying a terrifying new order. God has lost faith in humanity, and yet one archangel, Michael, goes rogue to protect what God has ordered to be destroyed. Specifically, a pregnant woman whose unborn child might just be the last hope for mankind. What follows is a siege unlike any other. Angel-possessed humans, grotesque transformations, and gory, heart-stopping jump scares that push this movie beyond standard religious horror. It's gritty, it's bloody, and it forces you to question the idea of divine will. What if heaven itself turned against us? This isn't just a battle between good and evil, it's a war within heaven, and humanity is caught in the crossfire. Interestingly, this movie even inspired a spin-off series called Dominion, expanding on the lore, but Legion, it's the kind of film that stays with you, unnerving, chaotic, and soaked in symbolism. A perfect storm of faith, fear, and survival.
Legion is a 2010 American action horror film directed by Scott Stewart and co-written by Stewart and Peter Shimp. The film stars Paul Bettany, Lucas Black, Tyrese Gibson, Adrian Policki, Kate Walsh, and Dennis Quaid. Sony Pictures Worldwide Acquisitions Group acquired most of the film's worldwide distribution rights, releasing the film theatrically in North America on January 22, 2010 through Screen Gems. A story of the Second Coming, Legion follows a group of people as they attempt to protect an infant savior from angels and the possessed in an apocalypse. Legion was released to negative critical reception, but was a success at the box office, earning over $67 million on a $26 million budget. A television series titled Dominion, set 25 years after the film, premiered on the American cable television network Sci-Fi on June 19, 2014. The Archangel Michael falls to earth in Los Angeles and cuts off his wings. After looting a weapons warehouse and stealing a police car from a possessed police officer, Michael travels to the Paradise Falls diner, near the edge of the Mojave Desert. Meanwhile, Kyle, a single father driving to Los Angeles, stops at the diner. He meets the owner, Bob Hanson, Jeep, Bob's son, Percy, the short order cook, Charlie, a pregnant waitress, Howard and Sandra Anderson, a married couple, and Audrey, their rebellious teenage daughter. As the diner's television, radio, and telephone fail, elderly Gladys enters the diner and becomes abnormally hostile, biting off a piece of Howard's neck before Kyle shoots her. A massive swarm of flies surrounds the diner and isolates its patrons from the outside world, thwarting their attempt to transport Howard to the hospital. Michael arrives and arms the patrons as the sky turns black. Hundreds of cars approach, filled with possessed people who begin to attack the diner. Michael leads the patrons in the fight, but Howard is dragged away. Later, Michael explains that God has lost faith in mankind and has sent his angels to destroy the human race. He also reveals that Charlie's baby must stay alive, as it is destined to be the savior of mankind. Michael disobeyed God's order to kill Charlie's baby, as he still has faith in humanity, and believes that in the end, God's mercy will outweigh his wrath. Charlie will eventually come to love her baby, but, quite unlike the Virgin Mary's acceptance of the unborn Jesus in her womb in the Gospels, Charlie says she hates it. The next morning, Sandra discovers Howard crucified on an upside-down cross behind the restaurant, covered with huge boils. She tries to rescue him, but he explodes into acid. Percy dies shielding Sandra from the blast. Sandra goes insane and must be restrained. Meanwhile, the remaining survivors hear a radio transmission that reveals other pockets of resistance. One such refuge is nearby, but Michael advises them not to go, since they would be too vulnerable on the move. That night, a second wave of possessed people attacks. Kyle is lured into a trap and killed, while Charlie goes into labor. Audrey and Michael help deliver the baby as trumpets sound, signaling the approach of the Archangel Gabriel. In a panic, Sandra breaks her restraints and tries to give the baby to the possessed, but Michael executes her. Moments later, Gabriel enters the diner and fatally wounds Bob. Michael urges the group to escape and tells Jeep to find the prophets, learn to read the instructions. The hordes of possessed humans cannot approach Charlie's baby. Jeep, Audrey, Charlie, and the baby go to Michael's police car. Gabriel and Michael fight to a standstill before Gabriel stabs Michael through the chest with his morning star. Michael dies, then his body disappears. Dying, Bob uses his lighter to ignite the diner's gas main and blow up the diner, incinerating himself and the remaining possessed. Jeep, his body covered in the same mysterious drawings seen on Michael's body, concludes that the tattoos are his instructions. Gabriel appears and a scuffle ensues in which Audrey is killed. Gabriel corners them in the nearby mountains and is about to kill them when Michael descends from heaven, healed and restored to the rank of Archangel. Michael tells Gabriel that Gabriel gave God what he asked for, but Michael gave him what he needed, giving humanity another chance. Michael says that this was God's plan to test his angels, believing they had become blind in their loyalty and that as Gabriel continues to obey blindly, Gabriel has failed him. Ashamed, Gabriel leaves. Michael explains to Jeep that he is the child's true protector. Jeep asks Michael whether they will ever see him again. Michael simply encourages him to have faith and flies away. Charlie and Jeep reach the top of the mountain and see a small town in the valley below. Later, Charlie, Jeep, and the baby drive away in a vehicle full of weapons. Here are a few themes and symbols from the film. Themes: faith and redemption. A central theme of the film is the loss and restoration of faith. Various characters wrestle with their belief in God, humanity, and themselves. The angel Michael's rebellion in favor of humanity symbolizes hope for redemption, even when divine judgment seems absolute. Divine judgment and free will. Legion presents a world in which God has lost faith in humanity and sends angels to exterminate it. The film questions divine authority and justice while highlighting humanity's capacity for change and choice under extreme conditions. Human resilience and sacrifice. The characters are placed in a desperate survival scenario, emphasizing human courage and the willingness to protect others. Sacrifice becomes a form of moral strength and redemption. Parenthood and messianic prophecy. The unborn child represents a potential new hope or Messiah figure, embodying themes of destiny and the protective nature of parental love. The idea of saving this child gives characters purpose beyond survival. Obedience versus moral conviction. Michael's decision to disobey God reflects a deeper belief in humanity's potential for goodness. This theme contrasts blind obedience, Gabriel, with conscious defiance in the name of love and faith. Symbols. Michael's wings and weapons. As both protector and warrior, Michael's stripped and later restored wings symbolize his fall from grace and eventual vindication. His weapons represent divine purpose redirected toward compassion. The Dina, a paradise falls. The isolated desert Dina becomes a symbolic last stand, an outpost of hope, community, and resistance. Its name, a paradise falls, it ironically signals both a spiritual fall and the struggle to preserve goodness. The baby, Charlie's child. The unborn child symbolizes hope, renewal, and humanity's future. As a messianic figure, the baby becomes the reason for divine contention and mortal sacrifice. The possessed. These angelically possessed humans act like demonic forces and symbolize how divine wrath can pervert rather than preserve. They embody the distortion of heavenly will into terror. Gabriel's trumpet-like weapon. Gabriel, who traditionally heralds the apocalypse, uses a flare-like weapon. This reflects the violent execution of divine judgment, transforming prophecy into brute force. Conclusion. Legion uses supernatural horror and apocalyptic action to explore complex spiritual questions around faith, divine justice, and human worth. Through its symbolic imagery and character-driven struggles, it critiques blind obedience and champions the idea that compassion, sacrifice, and belief in others, even when flawed, can be more righteous than following orders. While steeped in biblical mythos, Legion ultimately argues for the moral strength of humanity and its capacity for redemption.
They said the end was coming, but maybe it starts with a voice in the dark. This podcast isn't monetized, and there's no defined marketing plan. Just one creator sending out a signal in the storm. If you're listening, it means you were meant to hear it. Share it with someone who's ready to fight the good fight, or at least loves a good sci-fi showdown. Drop a comment too. It lets me know you're still out there, still human. Every follow, listen, and share is like scribbling hope on a crumbling wall. Because sometimes the message that saves us doesn't come from above.
Here is a character analysis of the major characters from Legion, 2010, directed by Scott Stewart. The film blends apocalyptic horror with religious mythology, centering on a divine judgment against humanity. Archangel Michael, Paul Bettany. Michael is the rebellious archangel who defies God's command to destroy humanity, believing there is still hope for mankind. He falls to earth to protect the unborn child destined to save humanity. Core traits: stoic, compassionate, defiant, principled. Conflict: torn between obedience to God and his love for humanity. Arc: Michael starts as a servant of divine will but becomes a protector of free will and faith. Symbolism: he represents mercy, conviction, and the idea that true love for something means challenging even its source, God, when it seems unjust. His arc parallels Lucifer's in reverse, falling not out of pride but out of love. Jeep Hansen, Lucas Black. A kind but emotionally reserved young man who works at his father's remote diner. Jeep is in love with Charlie, the pregnant woman Michael is trying to protect. Core traits: loyal, awkward, selfless, and uncertain. Arc: from passive and emotionally immature to someone willing to fight and sacrifice for others. Symbolism: Jeep is the ordinary human who becomes extraordinary by acting with courage in crisis. He is a future guardian, and his spiritual growth earns Michael's trust. Charlie, the Adrian Policki. A tough, cynical waitress who is carrying the child prophesied to be humanity's savior, though she doesn't know or understand why. Core traits: a hardened, guarded, pragmatic. Conflict: struggles with feelings of unworthiness and the burden of motherhood. Symbolism: Charlie represents reluctant hope, a flawed, modern-day Mary figure. She embodies the idea that salvation may come from imperfect vessels. Bob Hansen, Dennis Quaid. Jeep's grandfather and owner of the diner. Bob is bitter and disillusioned, estranged from his son and nursing personal failures. Core traits: is skeptical, tough, emotionally distant. Arc: though not central, Bob has moments of redemption, protecting his son and others even when he no longer believes in much. Symbolism: he symbolizes the old world, jaded and broken, but still willing to stand for something in the end. Percy Walker, Charles S. Dutton. A one-armed cook and former convict who works at the diner. He is one of the more grounded and emotionally intelligent members of the group. Core traits: wise, humorous, loyal. Symbolism: Percy serves as the human conscience of the group. He stands as a symbol of redemption, someone who's done wrong but chosen a better path. Kyle Williams, Tyrese Gibson. A tough man traveling with his son during the outbreak. Protective but angry, Kyle brings tension to the group dynamic. Core traits: protective, short-tempered, practical. Arc: tries to protect his son at all costs but ultimately fails, leading to one of the film's most emotional losses. Symbolism: Kyle represents fatherly love and the tragedy of being unable to shield innocence from a collapsing world. Sandra and Howard Anderson, Kate Walsh and John Tenney. A well-off married couple stranded at the diner with their teenage daughter, Audrey. Sandra, nervous, fragile, emotionally unstable. Howard, illogical, rational, ultimately sacrificial. Symbolism: they portray the collapse of superficial stability when confronted with divine reckoning. Sandra's breakdown contrasts with Howard's quiet bravery. Audrey Anderson, Willa Holland. The Andersons' teenage daughter, who quickly becomes part of the core group of survivors. She bonds with Jeep and undergoes subtle growth. Core traits: is sensitive, adaptable, observant. Symbolism: Audrey represents youthful resilience, is someone forced to grow up quickly in crisis. Archangel Gabriel, Kevin Durand. God's enforcer, Gabriel arrives to finish what Michael refused to do, wipe out humanity. Core traits: zealous, commanding, powerful, conflicted. Conflict: Gabriel struggles with his role, he wants to serve, but also envies Michael's freedom and conviction. Symbolism: Gabriel embodies blind obedience and the danger of serving a cause without compassion. His battle with Michael is a war of ideology, law versus grace. God, unseen. Though never shown, God is an omnipresent force in the film whose loss of faith in humanity sets the entire story in motion. Symbolism: God in Legion functions as an allegorical test, he represents judgment and the notion that love and mercy must be proven, not just believed in. The child, the unborn. Never named or fully explored, the child Charlie carries is symbolic rather than a character in the conventional sense. Symbolism: hope, a new beginning, a divine trust in the flawed. The child is the key to humanity's survival and spiritual reset. Overall themes in characterization: free will versus divine order. Redemption through sacrifice. The potential of humanity, even in its flaws. Each character in Legion is placed on a spectrum between hopelessness and faith, obedience and rebellion, and many face moral crossroads that define whether they are part of humanity's damnation or salvation. Here is a detailed overview of the production and design on the film. Building construction production overview. Director, Scott Stewart. Producers, Bold Films and Screen Gems. Cinematography, John Lindley. Production designer, Jeff Kunkel. Visual effects, Tippett Studio. Budget, $26 million. Filmed largely in New Mexico and California, Legion was a controlled budget production that leaned into atmospheric design and stylized horror to tell its story of the Archangel Michael defending humanity from divine wrath. Artist palette production design. 1. Paradise Falls Diner, the central set. The diner is the primary location, acting as a crucible for both character conflict and divine warfare. Design concepts. Located in the Mojave Desert, designed to emphasize isolation and vulnerability. Constructed as a fully enclosed, practical set on location, allowing for dynamic interior-exterior transitions during action scenes. Interiors were dressed with a retro 1950s to 1960s Americana aesthetic. Neon signs, wall booths, the jukebox, pie counters. Subtle color palette of faded pastels, aged wood, and stainless steel, evoking decay and abandonment. Objects like religious icons and diner relics are sprinkled throughout, hinting at the spiritual undercurrents. Symbolism. The diner represents a last stand for humanity, almost like a church or temple under siege. It becomes a battleground, transformed by the invading possessed into a charnel house of shattered glass, twisted metal, and burned earth. 2. Angelic and possessed design language. Michael's gear. Michael, Paul Bettany, wears military-style black tactical armor, repurposed with angelic motifs like metal cuffs, tattered trenchcoat, and glyphs. His wings are a major design element, rendered via CGI but choreographed physically for impact in key scenes. His halo is never traditional, instead, his glow comes from composure and otherworldly calm. Gabriel's armor. The opposite of Michael, imposing, ornate, and imperial. Gabriel's design features a massive collapsing mace, silver armor with inlaid patterns, then feathered wings that appear more metallic and serrated. Costume hints at divine authoritarianism, contrasting Michael's rebel/renegade look. 3. The possessed/plague infected. Humans taken over by angels are designed with demonic horror elements. Disjointed movements, digitally enhanced. Distorted faces, black eyes, and elastic jaws, e.g., Ice Cream Man and Grandma scenes. Practical makeup effects were combined with CGI facial distortion, inspired by The Exorcist and Asian horror. Contorted body horror, performers, including contortionists, wore prosthetics and body rigs to enhance unnatural movement. Wrench visual and special effects. Led VFX Studio, Tippett Studio. Created the digital wings, plague swarms, possessed transformations, and Gabriel's weapon. The Ice Cream Man scene became iconic for its blend of practical performance, Doug Jones, and CG limb elongation. CGI enhanced action sequences, bullets, wings, explosions, and supernatural enhancements in the final showdown. Movie camera cinematography and lighting. Shot by John Lindley, the film uses high contrast lighting, emphasizing silhouettes and flares. Warm daylight exterior versus cold blue interiors, accentuating the tension between outside chaos and inside sanctuary. Frequent use of backlighting and shadows, especially in siege scenes. Costume design. Michael and Gabriel custom-designed armor and robes symbolizing rebellion versus divine order. The possessed, basic clothing enhanced with makeup and gore, peeling skin, bloodied mouths, blackened veins. Survivors, worn desert attire, dusty, practical, and not futuristic, reinforced the grounded post-apocalyptic survival tone. Headphone sound and music. Composer A. John Frizzell. Score mixes orchestral suspense cues with industrial and percussive textures, underscoring the militarized apocalypse. Sound design used subtle, eerie ambience for angelic presences and sudden audio spikes during transformations and attacks. Television set expansion and world building. While largely contained to the diner, the story hints at a larger divine war. Abandoned highways, overturned cars, and burning fields suggest global scale. The hospital in the opening scene is cold, sterile, and filled with tension, setting the tone for a broken world. Dove symbolism in design. The film's religious visual themes, angels with weapons, a holy bath, divine wrath, are modernized through military tropes. Guns and faith coexist, as Michael uses both scripture and submachine guns. The diner cross is a centerpiece, an altar under siege. The final image, jeep driving into dawn, implies hope, salvation, and a new covenant, supported by the visual motif of light piercing darkness.
So here are my personal insights and interpretations of Legion, including favorite moments, themes, and characters. So the opening of this film has Bible scripture quote, "Come ye children, listen to me, I will teach you the fear of the Lord." Psalm 34:11. So right off the bat, we see where the Archangel Michael, played by Paul Bettany again, he falls from heaven and he cuts off his wings, right? Which it can't feel good to do something like that, right? It's almost like cutting off your pinky finger. You know what I'm saying? It's an extension of you, right? Must hurt like heck, right? Then he goes to raid weapons cache and him set off on the mission. Now enter the scene of paradise Falls Diner. They're out in the Mojave Desert, and it's run by Bob Hansen, right? Played by Dennis Quaid, and his son Jeep, right? Lucas Black, right? Who many of you might know from Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift. Yeah, that dude. Yeah. He is there with Charlie, who is played by Andreen Palik. She's a pregnant waitress, right? And she's expecting soon, very soon. So, of course, some customers come in. Kyle, who is played by Tyrese Gibson, who is also from Fast and the Furious. And he, most person would know him from there, but he's also a rapper, right? Tyrese come in, him is a, mysterious guy, and him beg for a phone call and thing, and, they give him a phone, for go making call and thing, right? Apparently, he's been having some issues with his significant other because, yeah, them are going with some things, right? And him cuss her off on the phone. Now, Howard and Sandra, right? They are a couple and them have them daughter Audrey, right? Who them get stranded because them have car trouble, right? That's how them end up there. Howard did really curse out the daughter, Basically I say, she dress in a certain way, and our mother join in on the thing for say, the way you dress, it's not appropriate for for you, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, that's essentially what I got from it. Then, little after that, now some stuff start happening, some weird phenomena, right? Which you can actually be like, yo, if you're in a situation here and you just start see TV and radio stop work, the telephone where the man they depend I talk to the woman cut out same time, right? And just the whole energy and environment just shift, Then a creepy elderly woman will walk with, walker, you know what I'm saying? She enters, right? And order raw meat, you know? And then she utter something to the waitress, right? Say, your baby's gonna burn. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, what? Everybody's like, what? What is this lady? It's like, well, I'm to your woman and them want to cuss her off and thing. Only if you realize, say, you know what I'm saying? One I guy there, we decide, say, well, I go too close. Right? That's a Howard. Go very, very much too close. And she bit him and end up in a ceiling. Right? Of course, everybody, jump off, who have them gun and thing, and shotgun come out and them start bust up shot and thing for, you know what I'm saying? Cause yeah, them not understand what go on. This does seem out of the ordinary. Does you know what I'm saying? Something really off and supernatural about what's going on. So nobody really know what going on thing. So Michael arrive. Michael arrived now in a police car, right? And because of what just happened a while ago, clearly everybody is on edge. There's no way you can be like, oh, I'm just going to be like taking this cool cause this guy, this strange guy just show up, right? And then it be even act strange too towards them because them ask questions and like, what's up, buddy? Why you in a cop car? You obviously don't look like a cop. What the heck is going on, right? And he's like, the last time God lost faith in man, he sent a flood. And this time, he sent angels. I was like, what the hell are you talking about, man? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Hello, who are you talking to? Anyways, after, much prodding and prying and thing, and, them trying to figure out what's going on and, back and forth, him reveal say, God has ordered the extermination of mankind. This is it. This is what they call the second coming. And Charlie's baby is the last hope of humanity. Yeah. For reasons. Usually there's some great reasons, something great about this. Yes, so, just as he is finished making that statement, yes, some freakier stuff happening. Howard get taken totally, and he is found outside, hanging upside down, right? Percy, who, one of the black guys, the first one to go, he might try to stop Howard wife from, getting herself into trouble and everybody else in trouble, because the way she move like she not no sense at this point, right? Cause you see the man hanging up upside down, and him, the way him don't look right. There's nothing right about how him look. Why are you gonna go towards him? But then again, that's just how, they always portray white people do them things. Well, the black guy was like, yo, what y'all do? And he try for help. He try, he run out behind her and him catch her just in time before the body basically swell and explode. And some liquid fly out, and because him a hold her for protect her and thing for shield her, him get hit by it. And there's that great moment of him just standing. When I say great, I mean like a great cinematic moment of him standing in the doorway before he falls forward, and we see that his back has been burnt out like his acid rain, just burn out the whole line back so till you see the rib cage. Yeah, that's the kind of movie we're talking about, guys. Yeah, so Michael basically have to sit down and teach a group, say boy, how to defend themselves, defend the diner against the attacks and so on, right? Him warn them of the possess and thing, and that would have been before my girl run outside. So him don't tell her that, and she decides she shall run go outside. Anyways, all of the things going on and stuff. Ice cream man come, right? You hear the ice cream truck, come in and thing, and you say, this seem like a normal kind of setting kind of thing in a way, but abnormal, because why would the ice cream truck man be coming there anyways? You know so something is up with him. Then you see him stepping out and cranking him shoulders and cranking him neck like, he's just, trying to get him skin, and then you see him jaw unhinge, and you know what I'm saying? Them thing there just make the movie just more interesting and scary at the same time. And you're like, what the heck is going on? Right? Even in preparation for this particular episode of the podcast, I had to watch this movie in 3 parts. I had to watch part of it and then just put it down and they come back to it and then watch it again. Cause trust me, it's not for the faint of heart in terms of some of the imagery that they use in this film, right? And it's really good. And it's not a lot of CGI per se. They do use CGI, they do use special effects, but they don't lean too much into it. They use as much practical effect as possible, right? Anyways, you would have known that already. So, then basically have the diner as them fortress, right? And the place dark, like midnight, right? It was just sunny a while ago, and then it's dark as midnight and thing, right? And you see a whole lot of them coming up there, and that's demonic possessed, people just standing around the diner, just waiting for their turn, to get inside the diner, right? And of course, because Michael is there, them have to kind of back off because Michael have them at the bay, certain way. Now, when time all of that happen now, right? One bikini, one little boy, right? And him father, apparently, right? So the father come out of the car and look a bikini there in the car. So you think, say, yeah, because things kind of ease up now, things kind of ease up at this point. And you just see, the creatures them coming after them now, coming after the boy and thing. Him father get taken out, it seems. We'll be right back after these messages. This episode contains discussions of violence that may not be suitable for all listeners. Please listen with caution. The end doesn't always come with thunder. Sometimes it starts with a whisper in the static, a podcast floating through the noise. This show isn't backed by sponsors or corporate power. It's raw, real, and driven by pure grit and obsession. If you're listening, it means you haven't checked out yet. So share it with someone who would stand with you when the skies crack open. And leave a comment so I know you're still human. Every listen, follow, and share is another bullet in the fight to keep the signal alive. Because in a world falling apart, sometimes the last thing standing is the story. When my girl, the same girl where our daughter decides that she go out there for go save, you know what I'm saying? And the black guy was played by Tyrese, go out there and thing, end up in a situation where him get taken out next. Cause him a hold the child in him hand, never realize what going on. And it's like, he just say, yo, gotcha. You know what I'm saying? We tricked you. And it does, you know what I'm saying, just take him out, and it was her fault, right? Anyways, the mother, you know, dig into her and cuss her off away, you know what I'm saying? And one of them have to come stop her and say, yo, you don't need to tell your daughter that. Like, really and truly, why you doing that, Yeah, that was something to see. So we'll get a little bit of exposition. Let me explain, as Michael explains about Charlie's baby, that the baby are the future of humanity. Now, earlier on in the film, he would have said something to the effect like him and said, don't do anything too crazy, right? And that would pay off now where she has been, basically in a situation there, run up in a situation and, have to be battling for her unborn child and her life at the same time because the little bikini come in, the little possessed demonic bikini come in and they in the diner after ready to take her out and thing. And you know what I'm saying? Right after that, the baby come. Yeah, the baby decide to come. Right? Now, after the baby deliver and thing, when he might explain about the reason about the baby and so on. Everybody was like, what? Why you never said this, before? And why is this the case? And how are you going to do anything? Right? And say, listen, God give up on mankind, right? But him defy the command, right? And believe, say, humanity deserve a chance. Right? So it took an angel to fall, right? A fallen angel to come and save humanity. Just sit on that one for a while. Now, of course, we have to have the penultimate fight between Gabriel, right? Because Michael was talking about the fact that Gabriel come, and Gabriel, Archangel Gabriel, played by Kevin Durand, is loyal and him not question no order. Right? Him come in with him fiery mace and wings him cut a man almost in half, right? That's the owner of the diner, so he's out, right? Michael and him fight. Now Michael now no wings, so him at a disadvantage. But he has Gabriel on the ropes in a certain way. Only for Gabriel for use as do a stunt basically of piercing both of them through the chest with his mace, which kills Michael, right? And when him kill him, him basically tell him say, "Oh, you feel God and thing." Something weird happens with Michael as he dies. Basically, that kind of ascension kind of thing going on. And that's something that happens in Stargate SG-1. Anyways, that happens. You seem to have ascended, basically. Now, if they give instructions to the father of the baby and the mother, and basically give the father the key and him tell him, say, we need to get out of here. So that's before him fight on Gabriel. And, go on. The prophets will help you with the instructions, basically. That's what him tell him. And he's like, what? Instructions? Prophets? What? Anyways, him decides him and get the hell out of Dodge guy and tell him and thing. When they were leaving, all the demonic creatures them turn up around and then basically it's almost like they were just waiting on Gabriel to finish the fight with Michael because it's soon after him finish and him kill Michael and him catch up to them, right? Run them off a road, mash up a car with it was three of them, and then it became two because the little girl, our daughter, she dead now, right? Oh, I forgot to mention a very interesting point as well that I liked was when the owner of the diner, we thought he was dead, right? But my boy did upon him last lap. Him have a lighter called Hope, with hope and hope written on the side, and him take the lighter and light the pilot light of the oven and blow up the diner with Gabriel in it. Of course, that never killed Gabriel, right? Could not have, but it slowed him down enough for the others to get away. But of course, they didn't fully get away, and he called up to them, as I said, and thing. And by this time, my boy, him get the instructions in him body. The tattoos that Michael had on him transferred to him after Michael apparently died. So them in the mountains and all one thing. And just as Gabriel ready to finish off my boy, Michael returned from heaven with him wings. The man get him wings, and him come back and him say to Gabriel, say, you would have just given him what he wanted. I would give him what he needs. So basically I say, me help change God's mind on this whole second coming idea. Apocalypse. Yeah. Let's let that sink in for a moment. Will someone let that damn sink in? All right. So my boy said to Michael, say, will I be able to see you again? And say, basically I say, yo, me there on, I'm saying, but now go there every day, but me there on, right? Say, him said to Jeep, say, yo, I'll protect the child, right? And you'll be guided, when the time is right. The child will bam, 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 whatever, right? Yeah. So, yeah, that was basically it for the deep dive. I mean, as I said, this film is a study of a specific religious tradition and text and belief. And so it comes with some understanding. Most persons who might be familiar with the Bible, right? And know of the apocalypse, the writings of Revelation, and so on. And this film basically would have taken a lot of those elements and kind of given it that question. I think that question would have been, what if it was all a test? That's what I think this movie was trying to say. What if the second coming, the apocalypse, is all a test for humanity? Because what it is trying to evoke that emotion of, could there be something else to it, right? The fact say Michael started out by questioning this order. Him get this order for say, it's time now to start, release the plagues, release the locusts, release the apocalypse, release the horsemen, right? What all of that. And we explored that in another podcast episode some time back in another series. But essentially coming back to the same central idea that there is so much to this that can be unpacked. And I would love to hear your thoughts on it as well. Because the twist of this movie is that angels are the exterminators, right? And it's not the demons, right? Because apparently the demons, or even the devil, he would have loved for stuff to go this way, right? So was Michael under the influence of the devil? That's a question to be answered. Yeah. Another thing I liked about this particular movie was that it was very obvious that Percy and my guy, the deaths were foreshadowed, right? And I wouldn't say just deaths alone, it was their sacrifice, because, you know, he sacrificed himself to take the lady, even though, you know, she never turned out to be much and she ended up dying anyways. And then when my guy, they were playing the other black guy, he went out there and him saved the young girl, our daughter, and that still didn't pan out. You know, you'd expect say, all right, you save him, why not? Yeah. I like the fact that he had the trumpets sounding to signal the arrival of the baby, you know? You hear the trumpets of boom, you know? It's almost like a booming kind of trumpet, you know, coming from the heavens, right? And every angel out there knew, hey, it's happening. We, you know, what's going on now? You know, what we're going to do now? Wait on Gabriel, basically. Now, in the midst of all of the chaos of Gabriel storming the car, I thought it was funny because, you know, like when people say, they pray for an angel for take the wheel. Well, this angel actually took the wheel of the car, right, and crashed it. So there you go. Not necessarily what you want, but maybe you need to be careful about what you ask for, right? Yeah, that is it for my analysis and interpretations. So here are my theories about unresolved mysteries and some plot points. So, firstly, I have to say that I noticed that the black guys, okay, and I'm not just saying this, right? The black guys, them die so stupidly, right? For instance, Percy. Percy dies trying to defend someone who eventually dies. You know what I'm saying? So his sacrifice meant nothing at that point, right? And then Kyle, he he dies when he stupidly tries to save who he thinks is a child, but actually an angel, a demented angel, I must add. Demented white angel. Okay, a white skin. Yeah, because they could have used black people, but they, probably didn't use a lot of black. It was already dark anyways, so wouldn't have seen them much. But yeah, it just seems weird, that it just had to die that way. When Michael talk about the prophets, them, you have to wonder who are the prophets? All right. I get the instructions part because the instructions are in an angelic language, and probably those prophets are connected to the angels in some way, maybe. Yeah. So looking back at the film again, right? Because this keeps coming back. I have to examine these plot points. Now, God sends angels to possess humans and wipe out mankind. Just meditate on that a little bit. And Michael is defying God's orders. He arms himself with human weapons and protects a group of survivors. The fate of humanity rests on the survival of Charlie's baby, who is implied to be some kind of messianic figure, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I love the movie overall, but it doesn't mean that there aren't some out of place plot points that doesn't really make much sense or have any ending. There wouldn't be plot points if they were, right? They had if they had endings or they had a conclusion or something to tie them up nicely, then they wouldn't be dangling out there as points. So the baby seems really significant, right? Obviously, based on what I'm saying. But we not understand the real or the complete significance of that, right? We only understand the boy is, it's probably like a new Messiah, right? Something on the same vein as what the Bible talks about Jesus, in some way, right? And perhaps it's intended to lead humanity into a new era, right? We do see where the baby's cries seem to repel the possessed, right? So it kind of does seem like it has some kind of supernatural significance there. So it would have been good to also get a little bit more out of that. So what are the other things that we have to contemplate is why do the angels them who are traditionally depicted as benevolent, right? And seem to be, good and all good, and so on, seem to be possessing humans almost like demonic activity, like they're demons, right? So them seem to be very monstrous with black eyes and, supernatural strength, right? So the obvious theory is that this is a deliberate subversion, right? And God's wrath is equivalent to evil, right? It's severe, and even the messengers them become terrifying. And then, maybe it's just to boost the horror dynamic of the film itself. They said the film never mentioned Lucifer or Satan in no way, shape, or form, right? Which I did mention it by interpretation and analysis that, yeah, something, I mean, you would expect that a rebel angel, right, like Michael, wouldn't necessarily be angelic. He would be more demonic, right? And to have angels fighting against humanity who they're supposed to be protecting, right? Michael's rebellion and Lucifer's fall kind of have that parallel in mythology, right? I mean, maybe if them did drop in Lucifer, here or there as a cameo, you know, it would have given the film a little bit more depth, right? Somewhere, even for say, boy, oh, he's approving of what they're doing or something, you know. All right, so it's obvious that the logic of the plan of the of God, right, in this film, who would have been depicted as loving, would order the extermination of humanity, and then at the last minute and changing mind, you have to wonder what the motivation behind the actions of God, and why the apocalypse, which was foretold, would have been averted or perhaps put off until postponed, I guess. In some spheres, people believe, right, that free will has something to do with it, right? And it is with the Archangel Michael's compassion that would have influenced God's decision at the end, right? And, perhaps if you wanted to tidy this up a little bit more, it could actually show the big man, God, having that debate or discussion with Michael or Gabriel, to say, hey, this is the situation now, why that, right. Yeah. Yeah. So Legion would have leave us with so much of its supernatural and theological threads, unresolved. And of course, this is an ongoing debate about its intentions and, the meaning behind this apocalyptic vision, right? Did the world actually end? Because, yes, we did hear at one point over the radio where the announcer was like, people are held up over here at some point and whatever, right? Up to that point, we would have assumed that the diner was all that was left because it just seemed like it makes sense, because Michael would have been there to defend them, and the other humans, them not really have any, they don't have any one from heaven on them side in that way, right? But the film did leave a lot of things up in the air, and perhaps it's just the writing and probably it's just the way how things were, And as I mentioned, Dominion, it's a series that would have come out afterwards to kind of expand the narrative a little bit more. So at some point, I'll get around to it. And if you want me to get around to it faster, you can do one thing. Share your favorite Legion moments or theories. Put them in the comments, please. So in this episode, we looked at Legion, angels, the apocalypse, and the battle for humanity. And one thing that, I do think we can take away from this particular movie is the questioning of authority, as Michael would have questioned his orders. He got strict orders from the man upstairs, right? Many persons will believe that it's unquestioning obedience is better. But in this case, Michael showed that questioning things and critically thinking about ideas really does matter. No matter what you believe, if you believe or not, thinking critically is important in whatever we do. And you can't say that it just relies on the faith that you have about this particular thing, because at the end of the day, there are things that you will not want to take on faith or blindly leap into. If you're even listening to this podcast, that's proof enough that you're not going to take certain things just like that. And so when we see a world where persons are having unquestioning allegiance to a particular idea, a particular person, a particular thing, you have to wonder, where is their critical thinking? Critical thinking doesn't mean you're smart or intelligent or a genius or have an IQ of 12,000. It just means that you have recognized that there are things you don't understand and you won't form an opinion either way until you have certain facts. If you don't have facts, how can you make a decision? That is it. Our quest through the universe of sci-fi television has reached a powerful milestone, 1,000 downloads. But the journey continues as we now venture towards the next marker, 1250. Your support is the magic that drives us forward. Share, follow, and let your voice ripple through the stars. Until we meet again, may wonder be your compass and curiosity your guide.